Hey there, everybody. Robert Taylor with Wonderscape Creations, continuing on with another video for Narrative Pro tutorial series. This does have a lot to do with the narrative dialogue stuff, so narrative tales should be able to utilize a lot, if not all, of the information that will be in this video. So let's go ahead and get started here. If we come up here, you'll see I have Seth open. We'll get to Seth in a minute. We obviously don't need the appearance anymore. We want to get into the dialogue stuff. And I know everybody wants to jump right into that. But, huge but, we want to get one thing set up before we even touch the dialogue. Before we do any of that, there's something really cool we got to do. And I think it's cool because no other plugin I've used does this. If I create a child of it, then I have to, right click, create blueprint, go to that blueprint, and, it's a hassle. Not with Narrative Pro, though. So, what I mean by that, we need to create our own dialogue master. The reason we need that is we may want to have some functionality that is in our game, and we don't want to have to add that functionality to every single one of our dialogue that we create. So, we create a parent from the child of the dialogue that Narrative Tales and Narrative Pro provide. So let's go ahead into content drawer. Let's go ahead and go into, so here Narrative Pro, the folder that we made within our project. We'll go to dialogue. And if you don't have a dialogue folder, go ahead and create one now. And we need to create ourselves a master. So if we right click, go into narrative, create dialogue, you go ahead and do that and name it whatever you want. Just make sure the word master is in there. Now go ahead and select it so that it is indeed selected. And we need to go into the project settings. If you don't have the project settings here, go into edit and you'll see project settings there. So because I keep my tab open, I don't need to worry about it. Now, if we scroll all the way down to Narrative Dialogues Editor, and we place in the default dialogue class our new master, so hit that arrow and it'll populate it there, then we are now ready to create our own dialogue. Now, here's why that's cool. We're going to right click here. We're going to go back to Frank. We're going to right click, new folder, and we will choose to call this dialogue. And we are going to those who are in Tails, you don't need to do this, add this extra step. But for us in Pro, we're going to have tagged dialogue, which I don't think you guys have access to. You might. If you do, great. If you don't, I don't want you guys to have to deal with that. Those in Pro, cleanliness. I like cleanliness. So we will do general. Now we're going to right click here, go into narrative and create dialogue. And how does Seth name it? So, okay, DBP. So come in here, dialogue blueprint underscore Frank. Now let's go ahead and open up Frank here. Look up here in the parent class. Our master was made, and we did that in the content browser from within narrative. So it allowed us to change which one it populates. And I'd venture to guess that it allows us to do that with all of them. So take a look in the project settings when you have time and look into all of these and see which classes you can change. And I would encourage you to change all of them. That way, if you have to make a change that you want to go through all of your blueprints of that class, you're good to go. Don't worry, I'll remind you every single time that we go and do that throughout the series. So, now that we have Frank made and we have this really cool parent class set up, that doesn't do anything extra at the moment, we need to set up the speakers. Um, there's a lot to unpack here within the dialogue itself. Obviously, you have the event graph where you can override everything dialogue wise. A whole bunch that you can override. Um, you'll see here in my master, I have get string variable that I've changed. I'll show you how to do that. That's how we were getting the time. But that'll happen in a later episode. And you can just gather all of this information and make changes. You can create your own custom events and make changes. You can make your own functions and make changes. You're not stuck with how narrative Tales Narrative Pro have created dialogue, and that was intentional because it's an amazing system, but it doesn't fit every scenario for every game. So let's go into this event graph here. Like I said, first we need to add speakers. You can add as many as you want, but for now, we're just going to add one. You notice how I went from gray to blue. Well, we now need to find the NPC data asset of who this is. So we know it's Frank. So we're going to add Frank. And tags to apply to this speaker for the duration of the dialogue. That way, if you don't want them doing something during dialogue, so if you don't want combat to start while they're in dialogue, then you can create a tag that essentially says talking. And then when combat starts around you guys, because a monster came too close, they won't start attacking. You can also, at this point, give them invulnerability. You can even give it to your player when things are happening. That way, if you guys are if you're communicating and combat starts because a developer decided to put a wandering enemy NPC near this dialogue person, you're not being punished for it, you know? Or you can make it to where when you get attacked, it ends dialogue and you can start doing your thing. So, that was a bit wordy, but that's fine. I'm helping you guys understand things. Default speaker shot. So, if you keep it at none, then you'll have it exactly how we had it when I was showing you the example in the last episode. This time around, we're going to go to medium. Yeah, we'll go with medium. I didn't play with this when I was doing it, but it should just work out of the hat or out of the box. Obviously, if you are wanting to mess with this stuff, just mouse over it and it'll show you Narrative Pro, Narrative Tales, default shot, static, and then what it's called. And you can create your own. Don't change these, please, but you can create your own. You're not stuck with what's here, but they have made shots for what are very, very commonly seen in dialogue heavy games. So like I said, I'm going to stick with medium. And if I hit this down arrow, I can make changes here. And it's not going to make changes to the asset itself, but it will make changes locally. So feel free to play with all that. There's just too much information in this right here. We could do a whole episode on just the speakers, but we're not doing that. I'm trying to give you a quick rundown of the dialogue blueprint so that we can get into the fun stuff. Now then, we have Frank made, and we can come down here, player speaker info. This, from what I can tell, is left empty a lot of the times. Default speaker shot, though, I want it to be medium as well. So we'll go ahead and do that. Speaker avatar transform. Speaker avatar class. I think this is for those not NPCs, those games that have when the dialogue stuff starts a 2D image, or if you're crazy enough, a 3D image of them shows up next to the dialogue and starts communicating. I'm sure you guys have seen those types of games. and then owned tags. So this is where I was saying you can make them invulnerable. That way they're not being killed while you're having a conversation. Now parties, party speaker info. If we open this up, owned tags, default speaker shot. So this, for parties, each player in the party gets their own speaker info. Now, you may be thinking, fantastic, this is going to work with all my companions. Nope, 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 nope. This is for other players. Players that are in your party, so think multiplayer. There is no companion support as far as teams go, as far as how companions work with, like, what's the word looking for? Dragon Age or Mass Effect. This is more like games similar to Souls-like games or MMOs or Halo, other things that had multiplayer type support. That's what this is for. See speaker ID, they're a player. So that's something to keep in mind. Don't worry, down the road, once I start diving into my companion components, I'll be sharing that to help people move right along, but that is a bit away. So now we come here to the configuration. Free movement. If true, narrative UI won't show mouse cursor, and set input mode to UI. You'll still be able to control your player. So you want to check this when you're doing things like tagged dialogue, or you're having conversation happening while you're running from point A to point B. You'll want to make sure that this is checked. And there's plenty of examples in this that have that happening. If you open up Seth's dialogue stuff, or what's his name? I think it's Luca the Cowardly. Yeah, Luca the Cowardly's dialogue stuff and both their quest stuff, you're going to see a lot of information there. A lot of examples of how stuff works. But for those of you that are watching this, you probably don't want to dive deep and figure things out. You just want to be shown it. I'm just making sure everybody knows where that stuff is at. Can be exited if false. Default UI will disallow closing of the dialogue with escape, and you'll need to wait for it to end. So if it's true, then when the game is playing, you can hit escape and it'll end the conversation. Obviously, while we're here in Engine, I believe shift escape would work, but don't quote me on that. Auto rotate speakers. Narrative will automatically rotate the speakers to face whomever is currently talking. We'll go ahead and check mark that on for Frank, for Frank's conversation stuff. Auto stop movement. Auto stop the character's movement when the dialogue begins. This is useful because the camera shot will automatically play. But then if the speaker is still moving, the shot won't be lined up correctly. So there you go. You'll want this for anything that's as far as default speaker shot goes. You'll want that. If you don't care all that much, if you're not going to be a medium, you're going to keep it at none or keep it far away or something, then do what you want. The other option is to mess with the dialogue stuff and the event graph to set things up how you'd like. So I'm going to keep that on priority. So lower values are more important. So I'm sure you saw when I was showing off everything that when I was running towards the NPC, Seth started speaking to me, but it automatically got overridden by what I was doing. And I may not want that, which means what I would need to do is Seth's would stay 0, and then what I was going to say would be 1. That way, if something's being said, this doesn't play whatsoever. It ignores this dialogue, which is fine. You may want that sometimes. Default head bone name. For us, it's head. Obviously, if you have some custom skeleton, you'll want to make sure you have it set where you want it. The blend out time is currently at 0, so it'll end rapidly. Let's have some fun with this. We're going to make it 1 second. I want to see what happens myself. We'll see how crazy it looks. If I don't like it, then I'll just go back to 0. Player auto adjust transform. just player transform. So yeah, look at all this dialogue camera shake. So if you want there to be camera shaking, um, I know some anime dialogue based RPGs where when they're yelling, the camera will shake. Um, so there's plenty default dialogue shots. There's plenty that you can choose from. You just got to make sure you do it how you want it. So I won't go any deeper into that. Let's go ahead and get him saying something to us, and we'll end there. We need to choose a speaker. It's going to be Frankie. Now this I'm going to leave empty. You don't have to leave it empty, but that's my chosen style, is to leave it empty. That way I can decide what the NPC says based on conditions. If you want the NPC to say the exact same thing all the time, then you can just place it right here. But if you want them to say, oh, you're new, how are you? Then the second time, hello again. Then you would want to keep it empty, which is why I choose to do that. So I'm going to choose Frank again. And in here, I'm going to choose, well, it's been a while. What's up? Then I'm going to create another one. I'm going to text, and I'm going to say, hey there again. So there we go. We have this all set up. Now it begs to ask, well, isn't it always going to play hey there again? Yes, right now that's what it's going to do. Because for those of you that don't know, the way that the dialogue works is it goes from left to right. It'll play the nodes that are going from left to right. So it'll go hey there again and end because there is no connection here. Obviously, if there's more, then it'll continue on down this line, and we would never see this. We don't want that. So we're going to do something that's actually quite powerful. And that's all the way down here in conditions. Now, I know there's a lot of stuff here that I haven't gone over. We will be going over that in the next episode. I just want to do all this. I will say select reply shot. If you leave it at none, it should default to what the to what the class setting or the class default is. So let's come down here to events and conditions, not up here. Don't go to conditions up here. I've made that mistake. I made that mistake like 3 times while I was figuring everything out. Events and conditions down here at the bottom. We're going to open that conditions, and we're going to find has dialogue node played. Open it up. Now we need to choose a node ID. And right now we haven't set that up. Let's go up here to Frank, and I'm going to name this Frank Initial Greeting. You can name it whatever you want, obviously, or you can keep it exactly how it is. That is completely up to you. If you have a lot of Franks in the game and they all have initial greetings, that could get complicated really fast. Now, if we come back down here, place that here. Now, it will not play this unless this one has been played once. It's all set up. It'll work. I promise. Copy and save. And come to Frank. And we're going to need to put the dialogue in Frank. Now, if you're creating your world, and you do your stuff, and you go and hit play, and you go to converse with the person, it won't let you. That's because you've got the dialogue. It's fine. We're going to come up here, and we're going to get our Frank dialogue. I'm going to select it, and then select the dialogue arrow. Now Frank is ready. Frank is Frank. Frank is no longer a mute. Oh, I want to make sure you guys can see it. So let's put that down. Well, it's been a while. What's up? Now, if I do it again, hey there again. Okay, so that's what that does. Let's change this back real quick to 0. There's something funky going on there that I haven't seen before, but that's fine. Let's go to 0 here. Oops. Yeah, much cleaner. Okay. So now you know that's how we have the basics of dialogue set up. As I said, in the next episode, we will actually look deeper into the nodes and we will give the player some selections. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.